Now you should be good. Let's see. That's bummer. But so everyone is okay. So we might have to do that whole thing over again. I think we might as well just do it, and then we'll just start this over so the podcast can be correct. But so all the Facebook people just got all of that. They're gonna have to kind of hear that over again. So let's see. There we go. So back into it. So first off, welcome to the podcast, YouTube and the podcast people. We actually just did this whole, about, I don't know, I guess, what would it be? Like a 3 minutes of me talking with no mic because I hadn't hit the button on the mic. So we're going to do that little part again. If you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, sorry, you're going to have to hear it again. So this podcast is going to be about pulling together more of the business aspects of POWLAX. So this whole thing has kind of been towards me getting stories that I can associate with things I'd like to teach players so that I can directly relate them to my stories and use stories that are mine rather than other people's. But so we're going to go through more of the business aspects of POWLAX, kind of what I've tried, and kind of where things are going now, kind of like the main moments when I decided to switch over things, how I started building things, especially when it comes to the online content and things of that nature. And then if any of you remember, especially the Instagram crowd, because I've got 9,000 or so followers on Instagram, and they're mainly all from when I created custom mesh. But so basically, and I think actually that makes a lot of sense. As I'm looking at my Facebook feed, I'm noticing that there's a ton of more eyes than usual, and it's probably because I'm on my personal page, not my POWLAX page, which makes perfect sense because not many people usually get onto the Facebook, but now there's a ton of people on Facebook, which is cool. But so maybe I'll do personal pages from now on. So first thing I want to call out and just make a mention of is last night I want to give my well wishes to two players. Lucas and Connor both got injured. I think Lucas broke his wrist on a cross check, and I'll kind of explain that real quick. So a lot of times in box, or even as you're playing, as you go to cross check someone, you really want to make sure that your stick is on kind of the heel of your palm so that it brings your arm with it instead of having it in the balls of your hands, I guess. So right here, because if it pushes back, you're gonna pop something out. That's at least how I think of it. And then I really want to commend our players, and then the other person is Connor. Connor has a history of concussions and got hit in the head, and I didn't see it. I was up speaking with some players who had just finished up a game up in the upper level of the MAC, and apparently he was knocked unconscious, and the ambulance had to be called, and it was a very scary thing. But so what I originally thought had happened didn't actually happen, and so he is doing much better than I originally thought. And it was just a very scary scenario, and so I just want to wish those two my best. Getting injured is never a good thing. And then I also wanted to commend the players on the bench as they played, because as I was saying, we had just finished up a varsity game, and I was speaking with a couple of the varsity players who had just ended the game, kind of about how the box offense translates into our field offense. And I was up on the high level of the Miller Activities Complex, and if you envision this, basically you have this kind of walk into the main entrance, and as you walk in, the turf field is down on another field kind of below it. And so as we're talking, everything kind of goes silent around us, and we're still talking all loud. And then, we got up and kind of saw, and then, kind of rushed down and saw how Connor was. But so I really want to commend the players on the bench, because as Coach Dan went to assist Connor, and Coach Dan did a great job, all of the players on the bench did a good job of, maintaining their composure, coming together, and not they acted like men on the sideline. And so I'm very proud of them for that. I think that was a great thing that they did. And I'm just happy that as we've gotten kind of the feedback back about Lucas and Connor, that they, what originally could have been an extremely bad injury is not as bad of an injury. So it's just nice to kind of hear that. But so the next thing is just kind of an endorsement thing that I'm kind of doing, affiliate marketing type of deal. But so if you're looking for balls, definitely check out Pro Lacrosse balls. If you whatever you order online, if you use code POWLAX, you'll get 10% off. And then if you are looking for a aiming device, people call them Hector the Rejector. It's almost like it's not a shot blocker. It's like just a shot deterrent. But so I like the flip goalie ones. If you go to flipgoalie.com and you order and you buy with POWLAX, or you use code POWLAX, you get 10% off of that as well. But so that's quick and to the point. I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly how I want to do that because it feels weird. Like it's not like I use both of those products, and the only thing I'd ever endorse is with those products, but it's also taking time out to endorse things I just haven't ever done it really before, but so it's an interesting kind of thing. So let's get into the story idea. And so as we finished last time, I just left Grandview due to all of those circumstances and all of that. And we're kind of going to kind of talk through how I got to this point now, and then kind of backtrack through how POWLAX kind of evolved. And so once I wasn't at Grandview anymore, that like kind of messed with me for a long time. And it was something that I, through those summer months, in a lot of ways were very kind of empty because I didn't have a position anymore. And so there were offers that happened like a week later, hey, come here, come coach this. Hey, come coach this. Hey, come coach this. And I developed a good relationship with Coach Calhoun from Cherokee Trail because he helped coach some of the POWLAX and Predators teams. And so I wasn't actually going to take any job for that year. I was just kind of going to kind of see where things went because it kind of just blindsided me, and that kind of part of the story is that part of the story. But so it wasn't until January of the following year that I actually decided that I was going to go help out with CT. I also decided to go help out with Parker Hawks as well. And so last spring I ended up creating this like 73 page playbook that was essentially a lot of the POWLAX PDFs for Parker Hawks, but I got rid of all of the POWLAX branding and put all the Hawks branding on it. And it essentially was, 8 drills, an offense, how to do clears. Like it had little bits of everything that I think I'd like to create for each age group, but I'm definitely not going to get to that this year. I think the key to that is going to be, I think I'm going to do podcasts coming. I think that'll be the next thing I do on podcasts is the age group thing and how you can use my content to move forward and to do that. But so in the spring, coached with CT, coached with Hawks. It was a bit hard to juggle to do both teams. The one thing that I noticed that was really kind of weird was as I was helping with Hawks and then I got an 8th grade team, which was extremely fun and very cool. Big shout out to Zach Barber, who is playing for Legend now, but played for me on the Hawks 8th grade team last year, and came up and said what's up last night after we played them. He played all 3 games. He played the varsity game, the JV game, and the heritage game because he kind of just stayed and played. But so that was cool to see him. But basically, at the end of certain days, I would be leaving and I would go to coach with Hawks. And so any games, Cherokee Trail definitely took precedent, but it was a little bit awkward because on certain days I'd have to leave a bit early in order to make practice, and everyone in Colorado who coaches in the spring understands that the time frames are awful for spring sports. So as they bumped high school back, we don't end up starting practice till like 4. And as you start practice at 4, you end up at 6, and by 6:30 the sun's setting, and it's very hard. If you're going to do 2 things, it's extremely hard to get 2 practices in. But so had fun coaching the Hawks team last spring. It was definitely the thing that it's amazing how political things can be, and how even starting the team was a whole idea of, getting all the right kids together, and this kid doesn't like this kid doesn't like that kid, or, and just the drive for exceptionalism and the drive for having the best possible team you can have tends to ostracize people, and it it doesn't feel genuine. So I ended up having to have a conversation with a parent about, I'm a new person coming into this team, and everyone on the team was kind of telling me, everyone's good as long as this person doesn't play. And it's like, having that conversation is not, it wasn't from me. I don't know the kid. I'm good to play with whoever we have. And it was just it's interesting to see the political nature of kind of what things are because I'm more of a let's just go kind of play person. I'm not, so, everyone knows Kobe Bryant passed, right? So everything that Kobe Bryant was so popular for and so, what did he say? So he has this, there's a TikTok and a couple other things that I'm sure is on every platform, but, one of Kobe's teammates is like, just don't look Michael Jordan in the eye, just don't look him in the eye. And he's like, what? Why wouldn't I look him in the eye? And essentially it's because if you look Jordan in the eye, he's going to just tool you. He's going to go even harder than he ever would. And Kobe's like, nah, I'm that too. Right? Like, I'm that driven person as well. Allen Iverson had one that was like, he met him in LA and he's like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, oh, Iverson said, I'm going to the bars or I'm going to the club. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to go practice again. And so Kobe had this tenacity and this will to be the best of ever, and he's top 3 for sure. So, but the key is to realize that everyone isn't like that. And that's fine. You don't have to be that. And all of this, it's the dancing principle, right? Like, I almost want to start doing TikTok dances because if I start doing TikTok dances, people will see you don't have to be a good dancer to do it, just dance, right? So the dancing principle for me is just because you can't dance well doesn't mean you shouldn't dance. It just means that you didn't practice it, you're not as professional at it, yada, yada. Like, but the whole idea that in order to play lacrosse, you have to be a very good lacrosse player is just BS. It's not, it isn't what I strive for, if I could say it like that. Like, I would like for the teams that I coach to be competitive and to feel that they are, giving their best effort and doing well, but it's not something that I'm, it's not important to me that they win every game or that we get the best players. Like, I was talking with a very well-known person who we might start working with in the lacrosse community. One of the you definitely call him a legend of the lacrosse community, and we were talking about how we're not going to call a third grader. Like, all these people are like, you got to call him. You got to call this third grader to make sure that he gets on the team because he's like the best player. And it's like, I'm not going to call a third grader. I'm just not. And so I think that the political nature of how sports are going in that way kind of just drives a bit away from the love of it, but it was an interesting thing to see it from an outside perspective being put into a coaching role and then kind of like seeing how people, there's another whole aspect to this, which is if you're going to be the best and that is who you are, you must surround yourself with players who you can compete with and who you can get better with. Because if you don't, you end up not striving past something. So like Kobe, again, just to bring him into this again, he said, if someone is not anywhere near as good as me and I am just dominating them and then I start to coast, I'm not improving. And so his job was to put himself around players who were by far the best players around him, and that made him rise. You get around people who are better than you and you do better. So there's this fine line between if you're the person who really wants to be the best of the best, where you're going to go, and then also if you're going to enjoy the sport, get better at it, but you don't have to be the best. There's just that dichotomy that can be tough to navigate all of that. But so that was kind of something that I got into last spring. And then let's see. I pretty much think that's really just about it. But so now what I'd like to kind of get into is all of the stages of kind of POWLAX and the things that have kind of helped me kind of grow through things. So I've told a couple of these stories before, but I'm kind of going to just like bullet point them as we kind of go through it. And so we have a coaches only private live stream coming up at 10:15, and so we're gonna get our full hour podcast in, but that's just coming up next, so my mind's kind of in there too. But so as POWLAX originated, it was in Boulder, and the weird thing was I remember not wanting to do anything because I didn't have a logo, and so I ended up creating this terrible logo, which was basically 3 wolf heads in a in lacrosse sticks, and the whole idea was packofwolves.com or Pack of Wolves Lacrosse. And so within Pack of Wolves, it was the whole idea was to use the ideology of the wolf, and it came from the planet Earth idea of having the video of a wolf who like sent a flank dog and then attacked him, and that was offense either way. So from there, it was all really about trying to find parts of the lacrosse world that I could add value to. So once I ended up leaving Ridgeview, so hold on, let's go back to college. So in college, it was about trying to do training, because as I had coached a bunch of players, we did training on the side, and it kind of caused a little bit of a rift. And as it caused that rift, it kind of created something. But so then I was also working at Dick's, and I was stringing sticks, doing all of that. And then it was funny. I remember I had this idea that I was going to string sticks where I would tie together 2 separate colored shooting strings. And so it would alternate shooting strings, and I thought that was like a really cool thing at that point in time. And then I also started doing the videos, so the trick videos. So there's a video, my very first video ever, called I think it was called The Best Lacrosse Tricks on YouTube. And so it was just a set of like a bunch of tricks that I did in Vail while I was coaching for Icon, and that was like the first I got into the video style of lacrosse, and it got a ton of views. It was one of the top stick trick videos, and then I did another one that had even better tricks in it, but didn't kind of do anything. So worked at Dick's, set the record at Dick's for lacrosse sales, mainly because I was actually a real lacrosse specialist working in a place that had growing lacrosse, and yada yada. So then we're going to flash forward to once I left Ridgeview and decided to do lacrosse full time. And so I'm living at home. I don't have many bills. I'm able to kind of focus on what I want. And I built a, wax mesh business out of my mom's basement. And anyone who wants to kind of see the things that I started to create, you can go on my Instagram and you can kind of go down through. But so basically, I would dye mesh to be any kind of design you wanted. So I would do, like, Colorado flags were definitely a definite thing. And what I really enjoyed about the mesh was that it gave me an outlet to kind of be creative in. And as I started it, I actually I was going to just do like breast cancer mesh. And I think I told this part of the story, but it was totally a ploy to say, support me because I'm going to give back to this thing, when it's definitely a disingenuous thing. So once Tom's did the whole, like, if you buy a pair of shoes, we're going to give a pair of shoes to someone else, that thing kind of sent a cascade through a bunch of businesses that was kind of BS, because and I think Gary Vee calls a bunch of people out on this. He's like, you just doubled the price of what you were selling in order to do this. Now, that wasn't what I did, but it was definitely inflated to, I still made my little 30% margin, which could have been 50, but in the same sense, it definitely wasn't a genuine thing. And then as I kind of left that behind, that's when we got into kind of some of the more cool things. And what I noticed was that as I would have to be, so I'd be in my garage once I moved into the condo that we're in now, and I set up a workstation, and it really gave me a creative outlet where I could literally just watch movies and bust out mesh, right? And over time, my process got better. So if you're ever thinking about dyeing or trying to customize mesh, here's the best way to do it. First off, you get an air compressor with a, what do you call those? An air gun, an air paint gun. I can't believe I can't remember this word right now, but either way. And then basically you get the car paints that you can buy at Michael's, and you just paint on whatever you want. And so that'll work for any kind of East Coast dyes mesh, any kind of performance mesh. If you want to wax it, you can also wax it, but that's definitely the way to go. It's not to have dyes that you put on it and then it kind of seeps out into other places. But so as I was creating this mesh, I had this kind of creative outlet where, I would do different things. So a couple of the very cool ones I did this big long sword one that had kind of a name above it. That one was cool. And then there were a bunch more that they really tested my ability to essentially map out an image onto mesh. I did a really cool chaparral one. And then, I did a few that had some better meanings. Like I did one it was 4 puzzle pieces for autism. That one was definitely cool. And then, but what I noticed over time was that it wasn't really something that I felt like I was really helping the sport. And so as I had gotten to Vista, and I did a bunch of I strung up all their sticks and did all of that. Then when I went to Grandview, kind of did the same thing and started the POWLAX club team, which originally was just POWLAX, then went to Predators because Austin, who was at Eagle Crest at the time, we kind of linked up and did it together. But the mesh stuff was really just something that I could make sure I was continuing to create some monetary value, but it wasn't something that was huge. But so as I got through the club team and the kind of club team got bigger, now the club team is much smaller. I definitely have gotten away from the club, from putting as much time into the club team, which I'm debating. I want to still run the club team, but the impact that I'm having through the coaching content is something that I really want to make sure I can put time and focus on. And it's really tough now because, as any parent will tell you, once you have a kid, all that extra time I had to put towards all these other things is now gone, right? So I used to be able to spend all day working, and that just doesn't happen anymore. And so this podcast even is a way for me to improve my ability to do my ideas, but it's also something that is content that I can get stuff out. I get at least one thing out every week, and that's this podcast, this live stream. And as I'm working towards these new things, I can still get stuff out. But so as I was coaching I remember being in Breckenridge. So let's go to something a little bit different. So we're kind of gonna go off into the woods here, more about life, and then kind of through what things that are happening. So when I was with Vista and I was coaching with Jamie, he had me run a couple of things for 3D to build out their video stuff. So if you've never seen the 3D video library, if you get a chance to, check it out. The vision that was put into this 3D methodology thing was so deep and in depth that it's definitely really shows why Jamie's JM3 podcast stuff and his those things are so, the depth of it is so huge, especially with all the people that he brings in. Because as you looked at this spreadsheet had every drill, every skill, every age group, whether it was applicable for that age group. Each one had a video. So you'd have to get video of a 8U, 10U, 12U, 14U team all running, 3v2 carry shallow cut. And then you go into the really in-depth stuff with beginning players and so this is one of the things that I ran, which was, how do you maneuver the stick in every different way you possibly can? So everyone teaches cradling in generally the same way. Hopefully they teach it with a vertical stick going left to right. But what he had me do, he's have them control the ball in as many different ways as you can possibly think of, right? So we ended up, cradling by our collarbone and rotating the stick over one way, rotating it over the other way. And when you looked through to everything that there was there, as I was doing kind of the video editing and putting it in and uploading to Vimeo and doing all of this stuff, I'm like, man, this is a really cool idea. And one thing that I know about myself is that I can't, when it's not something that I have a vision for, I don't put as much effort into what I'm doing. So as much as this was really awesome to be putting the puzzle pieces into the puzzle of 3D methodology, I didn't have the real passion for it, and I knew that I kind of had my own set of things that I wanted to teach. So once I left Vista, went to Grandview, I had an offer to coach with 3D, but because I had read that book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, the only way that I was going to not pursue the opportunity to build lacrosse full-time for myself was if it was going to pay better than 3D was willing to pay. And so, that was a part of their business model. It just didn't work out. And I'm very happy that I didn't take that job, because what transpired after that has now blossomed into something that I feel is much better for me and allows me to do what I do. And so there's this weird pressure we'll get into in a little while. But so I got an experience kind of building video content for coaches through Jamie. And then once I was kind of on my own, I started having these ideas and thinking about it. But I had one massive problem. I was drinking. That's what it was. So as I was drinking, it wasn't like I was getting super hammered all the time. I wasn't waking up to a bottle of Jack in the back of my car like some people that I've talked to and know. And, no disrespect on finding yourself in that position, because you can find yourself in that position. What it was for me was more of every time we hit, on the drive home, we'd hit the liquor store, grab a 6-pack, maybe grab a couple shooters, have a few beers, and then basically just kind of like, have those 3 beers, watch TV, and then whatever I was trying to put together in a creative sense the next day wasn't really computing. It wasn't matching up. I'd have to investigate back to where I was in my work for 15, 20 to an hour before I got started working again. And so, then on the weekends, I would, go out and party and, go to the bars, go play beer pong, go do all of that. And I would really kind of hit the booze a lot harder. And that would have me not in the right frame of mind for a day or two. So anything that I was trying to build in a creative sense, even though I kind of had this idea that I wanted to start creating some kind of content, and I've got all these maps of all of the content and how I'd want it to look, and all of these, like, the thought process before I even made my first video was pretty in-depth about what I kind of wanted the whole vision to be, but I could never get any of it done because it took more than a couple days to get anything done. So like, as I first started doing my very first videos, let's see if you guys can see this. So if you guys look up here, that's my grandfather. He's like my best dude ever. But so you see this, let's see, that is a movie, or it's a video list. Here you go, Instagram. I'll show you too. There you go. So this thing, where we got that thing, it's basically a list of all of the different videos that I wanted to put together before I put anything out, right? And I could never get it done, any of it done, until the Broncos won the Super Bowl. So Broncos win the Super Bowl. We always have the Super Bowl party for our fantasy football league. Love this stuff. It's incredible. My brother Chris and I got 3rd place this year, which means we don't have to pay next year. We started the season 1-6 and then ended up getting 3rd, which is amazing. And so that was great. But so the night the Broncos win the Super Bowl, I drink, get a little bit housed, try and wait as long as I can till I feel like I'm good to drive home. And the next day I just felt like crap. And in my head for a while, I'm like, I think I should probably, I need to just kind of see if I can have 30 days no drinking. I'd done it a bunch before. I'd been like, hey, I want to go 30 days without drinking. And then that night I'd end up at the bar and I would have a beer, and then it would just, it was just what it was. It was a part of I felt it was a part of the atmosphere that I couldn't let go unless I just couldn't let it go. I thought I wouldn't be able to have fun without it. And so I have this Super Bowl party, go do it, come back, I feel like crap, and I'm like, I'm going to give myself 30 days. I didn't tell a soul, and that was the point. When I had told people what I was doing, I had this pressure. And the pressure was kind of a, let's see if you can do it kind of thing. Let's see if you can really do it. Like, I don't know if you're really serious about it, yada, yada, yada. And this time I just didn't tell anyone. And as I didn't tell anyone, when we were at the bar that night, just, I'm good. I'll have a Diet Coke instead. My mom raised me on Diet Coke. It's my weakness. Love that stuff. I get it. But so, didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell Wendy till about a week in. And she was kind of like, I've noticed you're not like drinking. I'm like, nah, I just don't really feel like it. And then after 30 days, I was like, I'm never going back to that. Never. Like, I felt so much better. It was a very interesting thing. I didn't feel like, I mean, now that I look back on it, there were definitely some stupid things I did in college because of drinking, and definitely some times that I could have been a better person. Like, so Thanksgiving, I want to say like 6 years ago, me and my friend Jake were fighting in the street, all drunk, and we had one of our neighbors come out and be like, yo, you guys got to go inside. Like, what are you doing? And there was just this angst after drinking that kind of, as we were drinking, that was just kind of this thing that just didn't allow me to get, it made me act dumb. And now that I haven't been drinking for, what would be 4 years in February, there's this level of control that I'm not willing to give up ever again. And the control is, if I get a call at midnight from anyone needing a ride, needing, they're in trouble, they need to talk, whatever it is, I can always get there. There's no hesitation whatsoever. And that ability is something I'm not willing to give up. That for one. The other thing is, I'm not willing to give up the ability to walk downstairs and just get to work, because my brain just doesn't work well when it's soaked in alcohol. So that's just something that's for me. And what I noticed was that once I quit that February 4 years ago, once we hit summertime with the POWLAX teams, we were in Breckenridge, and we were just kind of like talking, and I kind of showed Cahoon, Lamfer, and Adam this kind of map that I had made of like all of the skills, all of the 3v2 stuff, all of the offenses, and I've learned a lot more since then. But then I just started to piece it together, and I made this list of all the videos that I wanted to be on. It's funny because I look at this list, and this actually isn't the original list. This is actually a list of, let's read some of them. So, Dragon offense. That's something we ran at Grandview a couple years ago. It's the up pick to down pick box offense, if you've seen that. Then you have a whole no compromises series. So setting up a clear. So for youth teams, you have to set up a clear. But either way, so if you've seen any of my videos online and I have a black screen behind me, those were the first set of videos I wanted to do. And the whole thing was that I wanted to make sure that it was what do you call it? So Mike Walzak, who I met in Philly, who was doing some really cool videos with Nation 9, he just said that other list is crazy. But so the whole like map of everything was pretty nuts, but very cool that he's watching. I've been meaning to talk to you actually. I want to get together again real soon, Mike, to see kind of where you're at with things. But so all of those videos are what I wanted to get out. And so then as I built them, and this is where I'm in this phase right now with Turner where I don't have as much time, and I wish I had more time to put into all of the videos that I want to do, because right now I'm in this space where I'm trying to do something new. Like, so the new videos that I'm trying to create, where it's, I want to create the videos of what new parents need to know and how they need to train. And so this weekend, it was pretty cool. Not cool why I was there, but so we had like I mentioned last week, we had a death in the family, and so we had a memorial, and this was on Wendy's side of the family. But so one of the people were there was a guy named Dylan who had 2 kids, Leo and Keegan. And I'm weird in these situations, dude. I don't want to be here. I don't know these people. I didn't know him, and I feel like any amount of condolence I can say is, it's one of those situations I feel awkward in. But I've got 8 sticks in my car and about 100 balls. So I do what I do, and I went to the car and I grabbed a bunch of the mini sticks and I brought them out to the kids, had Turner have one. And so then I start teaching the kids how to play lacrosse. And as Dylan, their dad, walks up, he's like, you just had him do something that I couldn't. Like, coaching is real. Like, you just made him do something I've been trying to get him to do for forever. And, here's what it was. And so the reason I'm saying this is because the new whole what parents need to know is part of what I taught him. And so he was saying that he was trying to teach his kid how to play baseball and like how to catch, right? But so the biggest mistake parents make is they immediately think they need to throw it underhand because they want to throw it soft. But if you throw it soft and you lob it up, kids are catching with the ball coming down, which you don't want. You don't want it for baseball either. You want them catching it with their glove up so that they can essentially create resistance with their glove or with their stick as the ball is coming horizontally towards them. They need to catch it, right? But so when people put their hands down like this and toss the ball, the kid's brain mirrors the action and they put their hand or stick down. So you can't do it like that. You have to stay up if you want to train them correctly. So this is one of the things that we're going to be doing in the third video of this series, which is how you train at home. But so this is a whole new idea. I've never made videos like this because they're not for coaches. I can't stand in front of a whiteboard and be like, this is what you're going to do. Right? I have to think about actually creating a more of a movie style thing. Point being, when I was originally creating the concept for POWLAX Master Coach, I had all of this time and I would essentially spend, I think I had like 3 days per video is what I would spend on it. So first day was create the map of what I want to see, right? And so if you've never seen one of those videos, there's this app called Play Scripter that everyone asks me about, and it's a very old app and it hasn't been updated since the original iPads. So this is the very, very first iPad ever, or whatever. It might be an iPad mini. But so as we're here, like as you're in this, so the Play Scripter app is essentially a green screen where you can put all these things on it and you can do it with any sport you want and you can move them around and you hit play and they navigate through it. But so I would make a script, build the plays, run the videos, or shoot the videos with the script in front of a green screen. And then I would put them together over the course of like 3 days. And hold on, we got a comment. So you might be surprised how many of us parents end up as coaches in our local rec leagues. The youth stuff you're talking about doing would be invaluable to us. Done. I'm totally doing it, Mike, for sure. Mike always, this is a different Mike, but this is Mike Tobin. But so he's always interacting on Facebook. Love that. Like, all the interaction is cool. It was funny. So another thing about this last weekend and the interactions with Dylan was that as we were teaching this, I told him to go get his glove. And so one of the things that I really want to preach within this is that you don't have to, like, it's valuable to learn lacrosse if you want to teach it. And if you're going to be a parent who has a lacrosse player and you know that they're going to do lacrosse and not something else or whatever, it's good to be able to throw and catch with lacrosse. But if you can't do it and you're a baseball person, just get a mitt, throw back and forth. So I actually got video of me throwing with a stick and him throwing with his baseball glove. Now, there's one thing about that, and that's the fact that baseball and lacrosse play at the same time. So hopefully the fact that you have a baseball mitt won't make your kid not play lacrosse, because that could be some insidious things. But if it helps you throw the ball horizontally so that they catch it the correct way, that's good. So let's see. We're into the whole idea of building the first set. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to have 30 to 40 videos that I had on the POWLAX Master Coach website. And so that used to be a website that had everything behind a $15 paywall and everything was, there. And so basically on Christmas of 2017, I think, let's see. So it's 2020 now. So 2019, then 2018 was when everything went for free. So it could have been a little, I don't know. It might have been a little before then, because I know that I paid for this whole service. I think it must have been 2016. I put everything out for, that doesn't make sense, because it was about that fall either way. So I'm doing all the math in my head, and it's really not working out very well. But so basically, I had all of this content that was under this, that was behind a paywall that, I got up to like, I want to say 6 or 7 people who were contributing, but I didn't market it in the way that I needed to. And then as I tried to do stuff with it, I ended up kind of like falling off of it because I got into the season. Then I wasn't kind of building with it because it wasn't doing anything. I was literally just paying $200 to have it kind of just sit there and do nothing. And one of the very first pieces of, so there's another person who I know who has the same type of stuff that I do, but theirs is behind a paywall. And one of the first things this person told me right before I was even before I made my first video at all was, don't give anything out for free. And that has been the biggest like difference maker in kind of what happened, because as I was doing everything behind a paywall and no one was seeing it, I ended up kind of like losing the interaction that it really makes to create good things. If you want to make something cool, you want to share it with the world. Like, you don't want it to be behind a paywall. You want it to be out there so people can interact with it and people can, see what it is for what it is. And so after the whole debacle with Grandview and really not feeling good for the summer, it was like, what am I going to do? Like, you don't make much money coaching high school lacrosse, but it definitely gave me something where I was always doing something, right? Like I had practice in the fall, I had summer ball to go to, I had all of this. So once I didn't have all of that all the time, it was, what are you going to do? And so I looked back to the videos and I looked back to do all of that and putting everything out for free. The one thing that I regret about putting everything out for free, I don't regret putting it out for free, but I accidentally didn't download a defensive clinic that I did that someone reached out to me about later and was like, I used this to coach all of my defensive coaches and now I can't find it. And so I'm a little bummed that got lost in translation. Part of me thinks I'll find it someday. But as everything went out for free, I think I put out the Ohio State video for free on YouTube first before I did everything. But now, once I put everything out for free, now everyone gets to interact with it. Everyone gets to do it. So then I started a whole Patreon thing, which essentially is because all of this content that originally had the idea of, hopefully you can create something that's useful enough that people will pay for it. Now that it's all for free, having something where if people enjoy what I do, maybe they'll help support me and do the whole Patreon thing. So on Patreon, you spend $5 and you essentially help me continue to create it by providing funding, right? And so that's definitely a cool aspect. So I guess the other thing that I realized was midway through there somewhere was that as I was creating these scripts, let's see if I have one. I might have one. Sorry. No, I don't think I have an original one. All right. So here's what we have now. So now online, so here you go, 3-3 twist. So this is a map. This is our 3-3 twist, PDF. And so what this originally was if you've ever read Brendan Burchard, he does this thing called a one-page productivity planner. And this has really helped me to stay on track as I kind of move from thing to thing, because I don't know if I have any of those too, but basically what it is you have 3 columns. You have 3 items of life that you want to put into this thing. So for me, it was always like POWLAX Club Team Predators, POWLAX Master Coach, life stuff. So like yesterday it was get all your tax information to the tax person, and that took all day because I'm not as organized as I should be. But what I would do is I would create a list of, what are the aspects of of the 3-3 twist play. The first thing is you need to know how to run a 3-3 correctly and not have players in straight lines. You have to be able to have as many angles as you can. And so that was the item 1. Then you have which people should be. Then you have the actual motion. Then you have the reads that they need to make. And so as I would do that, I would then explain it out and I would build it on this program. And then at some point, what I realized was that instead of creating just words on paper, I should create diagrams. And so then through Patreon, as I recreated a bunch of these things for these videos, then I actually had something that people could get from Patreon. So for $5, you can get every single PDF that I've ever made. And so to give you an example of how much stuff that is, let's see. Oh. Okay. That's it too. Okay, I'm not getting the other stuff because it's going to take too long. But this isn't all of it. But these are the rough draft copies. I only usually do one rough draft. But so as I do the rough draft, I print them out, I edit them, and then I edit them and I put them up and I put them onto Patreon. And so essentially all the videos are free, but if you want to get the printed out version, you can essentially pay $5, download everything. And so a few people have paid $5, downloaded everything, and then ended their subscription. And good, as long as they're improving the game where they are, if they're using my content, good for them. That's a good thing for them to do. And so as that happened, it was like, okay, so there actually is something here. And then people started to support me, and it's insane now. I think we're up to 360 people who are supporting me for, I think there are still some people who are paying $1, but for as little as $1 and then all the way up to $100. And so it's something that is very humbling because I'm not the best coach like out there. I'm definitely not. I think I do have a good analytical mind who can explain things in ways where I can break them down to the minimum point. But if you think that my coaching ability is reflected through my videos, you're way off. Like in the moment, I don't remember all of that stuff. I rarely remember all of that stuff. Like sometimes I do a very good job of explaining it. And so if you've been seeing some of the videos that I've been putting on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and other places now of like the little sections of me coaching, I often watch those videos and I go, oh man, I should have said it like this, or I should have said it like that. But the ability for me to create the videos helps me articulate exactly what it is. And so it was funny. I think I've told this story before, but so with the Scorpions team we've been coaching, we've been running a 10-man ride, and it was unbelievable to mention, hey, we're probably going to do the 10-man ride, and then have a player bring up the idea of levels that I used in the 10-man ride video, but definitely would not have remembered that day because I don't have that much experience running a 10-man ride. But when I'm studying it and I'm in it, it's like when you take a test. Like if you study for the test and then you take the test, you're in it, you're in exactly what you want to be doing. And so that's why so much of preparation is so important for practice, is because you really want to make sure that your brain is in the right frame of reference when you go into any practice, so that you make sure that what you say is articulate and that players can really understand it. And that's the really hard part for me, because even though sometimes I need to be very, very specific, but because I have this broad knowledge of things, I oftentimes just go out on these tangents that don't ever circle back to the point. And if you've listened to this podcast for more than, one episode, you know that I'm spacey, like super space cadet. Or just ask Wendy. She'll tell you. So let's see. We've got another 8 minutes. And then I'm excited to see, I actually need to get some questions. If you have any questions that you'd like me to answer on a coaching podcast that you won't be able to see unless you are a $25 patron, let me know, because I think we need a good amount of questions. I think I have like 3 or 4 to answer for the next thing coming up. But so where are we going? So what are we going to do? So I got a very nice comment. By the way, if you ever want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on any part of social media and I'll respond. The only one that I sometimes don't respond to is TikTok, because kids write the dumbest things. So the best video I have is, it got 1.2 million views so far, and it's of a hidden ball trick that we ran with Braden Hebert and Preston Swick, and I was filming, so I got to film Braden throw the hidden ball trick. It's right in there. And as I move the thing, as he shoots it, you see Preston running and you see the goalie looking at him. It's a great video. But you see these kids and they comment and they're like, oh, I was going to like, but I remembered lacrosse isn't a sport. Or things like that. Just a jab. Just a like sport to sport jab. And it's hilarious because then you see other people, like, so I had a player who who's played for me in the past who was like, you know, I think, so it was in Sandstorm. We lost in the championship game. And so people were kind of like yapping, like some kids were yapping about that. Oh, nice 9-1 loss to True Illinois in the championship game. And so then they start like talking a little bit. And, you know, another player goes like, when did you beat us? Like, when did you do something? I'm like, dude, do not engage with that negativity. But so if you ever want to reach out to me, you can do it on Facebook, any of the things. I'll always respond. And I got this very nice comment. If you comment on any of my videos, I'll see them. I love the interaction. I love when people try to critique it. But so I got this message that pretty much said, hey, like I love like this video. So my 2-man game video is an hour and 51 minutes long. I teach 2-man games in like 5 different ways. And that video took me forever. Like to get all of the content in the right spots, to make sure I had the right examples of things. And he wrote a thing that said, like, I just came onto Patreon. I'm really hoping you keep putting out high quality content. And I'm just hoping that people understand how long some of these things take, especially now that I have a kid. So another kind of cool thing is that I love when people are willing to criticize what I do. Not in a mean way, not in a way where they're trying to talk crap because they think it makes them feel better, but in a way that they're like, no, this is what it is. So I have this video. It's called the Wesleyan Zone. And so a ton of people like this. I actually had the coach for Cabrini, who just won the Division III national championship, was like, why didn't you create this a year before when Wesleyan won the national championship? They had beaten Cabrini in the first round. And so then Cabrini won it the next year. And if my video helped them, that's freaking cool. But in the video, and Inside Lacrosse had a article titled Details of Wesleyan's Backer Zone. And I've never seen a backer zone run well. And it's not something like, there's apparently a video where I forget the coach, but he teaches you how to run it in the way that he runs it. And as I'm watching this, I'm trying to look for this backer zone within the championship game against Salisbury, and I can't find it. Apparently a backer zone is something where you essentially have a 5-man zone around the exterior of the field, and then you have one person who is essentially the slide always. And so he essentially trails and he goes. That's at least my understanding of it. I've never really seen it. But so as I'm watching this game, I see that it's just a 3-3 zone. And they have a couple key rotations, and it's pretty simple. But if you go to that video, you'll see that in the comment section, it says, no, Wesleyan does run the backer zone. And I'm like, I don't think that it's not that I don't think that they run the backer zone. It's just that they didn't run it in this championship game. But so I love their ability to comment on the video to say, no, this is wrong, so that I can then interject and say, is it wrong? Or did you not watch the video and see what I saw? Because if I'm wrong, I want to know, right? I definitely want to know if I'm wrong. And, what up, Nick? My brother's watching, which is cool. I think I have to do I'll do the personal Facebook now because people are actually watching it. But so I love the fact that people say, hey, this is actually not what it is, because if it's not what it is, I need to know. Like, I don't want to be explaining this stuff to my players and not be correct. Okay, so we're almost at an hour. Time to wrap things up. But so let's see. The point of this was to kind of give the last year overview, which is relatively boring. I've just been coaching, trying to create content, trying to create videos. There's always something to do. And now, where are things going from here? So the first thing that's going to happen from here, and this is a video that I had that I'm working on now, is So Your Kid Wants to Play Lacrosse series. And I'm hoping that I can start filming that soon. I have to wrap my head around how it's going to look and how it's going to be. But so the first episode is going to be on what lacrosse is, the Native American heritage, the love of the sport, the respect for the sport, lacrosse's most popular player, Jim Brown. And that is going to be, that part, kind of getting to the the wholesome nature of the sport, the fact that it's the longest played game in North America, those aspects that people don't usually know. Then it's going to be about the stick and how when parents buy bad sticks, they sabotage their kids' ability to enjoy the sport because the stick does not perform properly, and we're going to go through all of how that works. I'm hoping the videos will be 7 minutes long, but that's part of what I have to do. Then it's going to be how to train at home. Then it's going to be training stuff, training materials at home. Then it's going to be padding. I don't even know if I'm going to get to the last two. I don't necessarily think they're very necessary, but the first few are very necessary. The what is the sport, the stick and why it's important, and how to help train at home. But so those things are cool. Instagram just totally died. But so hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Have a good one. Definitely hit me up if you guys have any questions. If you are going to be in the coaching only live stream coming up here soon, I look forward to seeing you here shortly. If you want to check out deals and things that you can get through POWLAX, you can go to POWLAX.com and check out the partners and deals page. That'll kind of show you all of the kind of like partners and things we're doing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Have a good one. I hope, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream. Have a good one, y'all.